HoloTalk and Profiles in Holography is brought to you through the generous support of the International Holography Fund. For more information, visit their website at holographyfund.org.
It's equally
Hello?
Hello, is this Martin Richardson?
Hi, speaking.
How are you? This is Frank DeFreitas.
Hiya, Frank.
Of course you know, this is the HoloTalk show, which I'm not sure if you're aware of it or not, but I bring holographers on and interview them, and have been doing that for a number of years.
Oh, I've been following your work for some time now, Frank.
Well,
You do a great show.
Well, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
It's not my first calling in life, but I decided to do it, and anyway, it's good to have you on, and I know everyone's going to love hearing about you, but there's so many things to cover with Martin Richardson that I don't even know where to start, but I guess maybe we could start with you giving a little bit of your early history on how you got started with holography, and then we can move on to some of your projects and your books and your presentations and the conferences that you've been involved with, and just take it from there. But what about your early work? How did you get started with holography in the first place?
I guess, like many people, visiting the Science Museum in London was the first contact I had with the Dennis Gabor hologram.
Okay.
The amazing meter-squared Gabor hologram that I think was created by Nick Phillips. I'm not sure.
That was the laser transmission hologram of him behind the desk. Is that correct?
Yes, that's the one. So that was my initial, contact with holography as a kid. And I guess it sort of stuck with me from there. It wasn't until I went to art school, and in the early sort of 70s, mid-70s, I met a guy called Paul Wharton, who was working with Rebecca Booth, or Roberta Booth.
Okay, yes.
At Goldsmiths University, and that was about 1980.
I believe it's Roberta Booth.
Roberta Booth, that's it.
Roberta Booth and Rebecca Deem.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Two great ladies of holography.
Yes.
And I went on an evening course with Paul Wharton and made my first tiny hologram, which was very difficult to see. It was like looking into a muddy puddle. And it was a piece of magic for me. And, I began to read more about the way holography was being developed by people like Margaret Benyon and Bill Maltini in the States. Mm-hmm. And the more I heard about these things, the more my interest grew. And really, it's been a lifelong experience ever since.
Now, I had a chance to see a few of your pieces on the web in the Jonathan Ross collection.
Right.
And I understand you have a website of your own, which is updated regularly, so I'll include a link to that.
Thanks.
But I believe I may have had a chance to see one of your works personally. You may have been in an exhibit in the Museum of Holography. It was called Holography Redefined or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Now, did you specialize in portraiture work? Because I noticed a number of portraits that were in different collections.
It wasn't until I basically finished my master's degree at the Royal College of Art that I began to specialize in portraiture.
Was that a holography degree that you obtained there, the master's?
When I began at the Royal College, it was 1982, and there was already a sand table established by somebody you may have heard of, that's Jeff Blythe.
Oh, absolutely.
An amazing chemist. He's working in Cambridge University at the moment. And in fact, I'm going to be working on a project in the near future with Jeff, recording the Harrison clocks from the Greenwich Observatory in London on a project to do with longitude. But when I enrolled at the Royal College, we were working on the sand table and completed my master's in holography there in 1984, and Andy Pepper was my external supervisor for that. So another name there, Andy Pepper.
Oh yes, absolutely.
But the Royal College didn't get their first laser until I graduated, And then I came back the following year and completed a PhD, which gave me the opportunity to start working with pulse lasers, and met people like Edwina Raw, who'd opened up the Richmond holographic studios.
Wow, what great work came out of there.
Incredible stuff. It was so groundbreaking.
Yeah.
You know, I remember seeing the first pulsed holograms that they produced for John Webster of Boy George.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
I mean, these were 50 by 60 achromat reflection pieces, and they were mind-blowing.
Mm-hmm.
So lots of ground was being broken there. And I suppose at the same time, people like Eve Richer was developing exhibitions such as Light Dimensions, and that really sort of brought my work to the sort of public awareness.
Yeah.
And it was a good time for holography.
I noticed one of your pieces was a pulsed reduction. Did that come out of RCA as well?
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting to see. I have one from Jonathan Cope.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't see very many of them. I think Fred Unterseer had actually did the only one that I saw many years ago that was on display here in the U.S.
Right.
Yeah. How did you get involved with so many of the stars? Celebrity type of holographic portraiture. How does someone even get into that realm? Do you go over to David Bowie's house and have breakfast or something, or what?
Yeah.
You do? Fantastic.
Sure. He collects holograms.
No kidding.
One of the first he collected was by Peter and Anna Marie Nicholson.
Oh, no kidding, yes.
I think they shot a post hologram of one of the stage sets he was involved in designing for the Glass Spider tour.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a 50 by 60 piece, and that was one of his first to the collection.
Wow. So he's very supportive of the field of holography, huh?
He speaks very highly of it. David's one of these, very intelligent people that likes to keep a finger on anything that's new, any new developments in technology, as is evident from his website. But I first met him when I visited an exhibition he was having in London, and it was one of those occasions where, he's a sort of a demigod, and nobody really wanted to embarrass themselves by talking to him. And I took a deep breath, walked over to him, and started to talk about holography. And he said to me, well, would you like to design an album cover? And that's something I did for his Hours album, which was released in 1999. And went to New York. We struck up a friendship, and I made a small film of him, shot with the stereo rail system from what was then Applied Holographic. It was a camera designed by Craig Neuswanger. And that footage has since been it's been copied into a reflection digital hologram by Giola.
Oh, I see.
David Ratcliffe. So that was we gave him a copy for his 60th birthday, and he was really pleased with that.
60 years old. Isn't it something?
Incredible.
Yeah, here we go. This is it. Enjoy it while we got it, man, because time is ticking down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Well, I'm not real familiar with David's music that much, but I know he's known throughout the world, and it's very nice that he's been supportive with holography and found it fascinating enough to support it. So I don't know where he would be in the future with it. Is it just like a once-and-done type of crush or something, or is it an ongoing interest that he still has to this day?
No, I don't think it is. I think the door's still open there. There's as we know, there's lots of new things happening with panchromatic emulsions and full color.
Yeah.
And, the amazing work that Mike Klug and Craig Neuswanger are working on at Zebra at the moment, which is really awe-inspiring, and it's the type of thing that I'm sure Bowie would be receptive to. It's just, it's a question of time and getting the right images, the right window of opportunity to show to somebody like David Bowie or one of the other celebrities I've been, fortunate enough to work with. And just, if the timing's right, then and they can see an opportunity, then certainly they'll use it to, promote holography to where it should be amongst the super media.
Now you have a book as well, Prime Illusion. What's the other book besides Prime Illusion?
The first book was called Space Bomb.
Space Bomb?
Space Bomb.
Huh.
I play with words and
yes.
Like to be as creative with the stuff I put out as possible. And I thought of a hologram as being a sort of a capsule of space, and if the image is dynamic enough, it's a sort of a bomb, so space bomb.
Oh, absolutely.
And it really documents my first 20 years involvement with the media, from the early sculpture right through to the more advanced holographic pulse portraiture. So Space Bomb was the first, and the second was the Prime Illusion, which was the more, I suppose, more of an academic attempt to ask the bigger questions, such as, where are we going with holography? What does it mean? Where does it sit philosophically within society now, as society is being transformed by the onslaught of digital media?
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that, about the digital technologies moving into holography? Do you feel that that's taking some of the craftspersonship away from the field?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm really excited by the convergence of digital technology and holography. I think it's going to open up new pathways. It's going to broaden the entrance point for young people coming into the field.
Mm-hmm.
And holography's gone through this sort of evolution, and we can spot the evolution if we look at the early reflection holograms from Denijuk right through to the stuff that I've already mentioned Mike Luke's producing now. And it's only a time before it starts to infiltrate into everyday life in a way we couldn't possibly imagine 20 years ago. So digital holography is certainly exciting.
But you do feel that the digital aspect of this is probably going to give it the biggest boost that anything in the past has managed to do, also the full color as well.
I think it's inevitable, Frank. If we consider a moment, one of the major factors of the successful holographic image is measurement. Being precise about the way we do things, from, light meter readings through to calibration of materials and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
The one big advantage the digital media now offers us is that we can be more precise and more accurate beyond anything we could have done using analog technology before.
Okay.
So, and also, you see, what happens is it opens up new possibilities into the application of holographic technology to the broader area of, for example, architecture. Certainly, as we've seen in security and developments are rife there at the moment.
Engineering as well.
Engineering. So there will be this sort of resurrection of holography. Okay, as Steve Benson said, it was basically finding a new solution to old problems. But then maybe, good science is about that.
Do you think it will cut the value of the artistic work that has been produced so far by hand? Do you think that will be just as much appreciated in the future? Because obviously working by hand, we cannot produce what can be done digitally.
Right.
And will that sort of make handmade holography go the way of handmade cabinets? I don't know.
I'm not sure either. Things like the projects that you and I are involved in with the students, hands-on holography, you really can't beat sort of understanding optics and what light is from the experience of having a hands-on one-to-one tuition with things. Mm-hmm. And recording a very small-scale Denijuk hologram of coins, with a diode laser, with a bunch of students, is always going to be a magical experience.
Yes.
given that they're for the first time in their lives are truly asking, substantial questions about photonics and, how a lens works and what is light?
What is light?
Yes. What's light? What's going on with the chemical track? I mean, I have students coming into my lab who just can't believe how much they've learned at the end of the day from making a very simple Dennis-Hue hologram.
Yeah.
So, for me, I suppose, it's not an irrelevant question, and because there'll always be this sort of appreciation for the handmade holograms that we've seen from people from, Peter Miller through to Mike Burridge and Nick Phillips' early holograms with the Holoco, and there's always going to be a collector's sort of niche for that. And I think it is relevant that times have changed.
Yes. I know. I fear that I may be reaching the end of my involvement with the progress of holography, because
Really?
I sort of draw the line at automation and thing. I like holography the same way that you go to someone who builds cabinets or builds handmade tables or chairs. I don't know.
Maybe you're more into the xenopholography. The piece you get when you're in the lab alone and you're just staring at the spread beam on the wall, and the stable environment, the whole sort of peace that you get from being in that situation.
Peace is a very good word.
And I guess you don't have that. You don't afford those luxuries with digital holography, which tends to be an automated process.
Yes. So, this De Montfort University, am I pronouncing that correctly?
De Montfort, yeah.
De Montfort University. This name has been involved with holography for many, many years, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
This institution.
Well, originally it was formed, the Department of Modern Optics was formed by Professor Nick Phillips, which would have been, I guess, in the early 80s. And Nick, as you know, was responsible for much of the important work with the early processing regimes from Agfa through to Ilford, and more recently with DuPont. And it's always been relatively high profile in its science base. And fairly recently, Nick's team moved to a new lab in Wales called Optic Technium. And
yes, yeah.
Nick was fortunate to team up with Hans Bellehagen, who's, again, a pioneer of color holograms. I'm sure you know Hans.
Yes.
And I happened to be around at the time. I'd been working in the holographic image studio in central London for 20 years, and I'd reached the point where I felt that most of my commercial energies had been spent on coming up to sort of my late 40s, and it was time for me to perhaps have a more serious stab at some of the more, what I felt were the more important issues, questions I was asking about holography. And I was offered a job at De Montfort as senior research fellow, which I jumped at. I immediately fell in love with the idea of spending all my time teaching and developing IP, and was successful in being awarded a chair at De Montfort just last year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm now the Professor of Modern Holography at De Montfort University.
So that's a great title.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what it means. Maybe that's the idea.
And we're honored to have you on the program.
Thank you, sir. Oh, it's an honor to be interviewed by you.
Is this the same location? Now, I'm just going by memory on this. Is this the same location where the upcoming conference in September, Holography in the Modern Museum, is going to be held?
Yes, it is.
Yes, okay. So that's the connection there that I caught on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the obsession with three-dimensional imaging anyway? Why do we absolutely have to have a medium that's three-dimensional? Isn't what we have with our high-resolution, high-definition televisions enough?
You can trace it back through the history of art, right through to, the invention of perspective in the Italian Renaissance. It's something to do with the representation of reality. And my theory, my take on this whole thing at the moment is today we live in such a fast-paced, fast-moving world that we actually find security in things we know are fakes.
Huh. Did you say the word fakes? F-A-K-E-S.
Yeah.
Huh.
If we can identify something like a hologram as being a representation of the real world,
okay,
and we know that to be a fake, we find a certain amount of reassurance in that, because if we know what a fake is, we can then begin to define what reality is.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
So I think that's my take on why we're becoming so obsessed currently, with three-dimensional imaging again.
And of course, everything that's three-dimensional today is called a hologram, which probably drives you nuts as much as it drives me nuts. So
it happened to me this morning, actually, Frank. Somebody had sent me a link to an animated hologram website, and of course, it turns out to be the old Pepper's Ghost repackaged.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And what can we do about that? Huh?
I don't know. I wouldn't even go into some of the emails that I get from the general public all the time on stuff.
Yeah.
It's the most bizarre stuff.
Really is.
Going all the way to people who are saying that there's neighbors projecting three-dimensional holograms into their bedrooms at night and things like that.
Yes.
So it's like,
yes.
I finally put on my email page that if you see three-dimensional images at night in your bedroom floating around the room, please contact your doctor, not me. Now, I want to be nasty to people, but that's another realm that you're talking about. It's not holography. That's a physician's problem there with medication, I'm sure. Now, you did a 3D conference, and you have a PowerPoint and an MP3 file at your website.
I do.
That folks can download.
Yeah.
Is your book also available at Amazon.com?
No, but if anyone is interested in receiving a copy, if they log on to my website and send me an email with their details, I've got about 100 copies I would be able to send for free.
For free, you said?
Yeah, for free.
Well, let me. I was going to
take me up on that.
I was going to buy one, so let me get on that list. If it was at Amazon, I was going to go over and order it, actually. So let me get on that list,
okay.
And we'll see who else contacts you. We'll find out who really listens to this show or not.
Exactly. That's going to be interesting, isn't it?
Anything else you'd like to add? Since we're coming up on 25 minutes, and there's really only so much, and there's such a varied audience that's listening to this as well, which is why I try and give a little sample of just about everything that can be covered rather than sticking on one specific type of topic.
Okay.
Anything that you would like the listeners to know about or to hear about?
I'll tell you what would be interesting, Frank, is you mentioned earlier some of the famous people I've worked with in the past, and the list is long, as you know, and the list includes people like the film director Martin Scorsese.
Yeah.
I've got a series of pulsed holograms of him, the painter Peter Blake, the British father of what we could refer to as the pop art, Alan Parker, the David Bowie images. Now, all of these holograms, all of these masters are being stored in some silver trunks in my lab, and I'm keeping them there for posterity. But the key question is, what happens to these things when I'm no longer around?
Oh.
So, what I'd like to hear from your listeners is, if anyone has a suggestion what I can do with these holograms in the long term, let me know. If they can think of a deserving cause or a museum that we could, have these holograms donated to, I would be listening.
Well, isn't that something? Well, let's see what the listeners would say. I don't think you're going to hear from any of the school students or teachers, but or many of the other people who are listening, but they may send something to you. But some of the holographers out there may contact you on that. Have you contacted the International Holography Fund or some other? I consider that sort of a type of governing organization.
Absolutely. I'm very pleased you mentioned that, because I just wanted to say how delighted I am that, you know, something like this has come along, and it's a lifeline to struggling artists who really need help.
Yeah.
And, you know, I much admired Posey Jackson's work with the Shearwater and Andy Pepper's hard work in that. And I can't tell you how much it's helped people in the past, and long may it continue into the future.
I agree. I was actually a recipient of that for HoloTalk, which I'm very proud to say.
Fantastic. Well, you know, good cause there.
Yes, very much. And it is a tough field. You know, I mean, you're talking about people who have to sometimes truly wonder where they're going to get groceries, you know, to put food on the table.
I'm sure you have.
Yeah. Well, I've seen it and experienced it, actually, many times. It's very up and down like a roller coaster. Yep. It takes its toll on you after a while, too.
Yeah.
But here we are.
We're still doing it.
You would think with all the things that we're doing that, you know, nothing would be a problem in our lives, you know. Oh, well. Hey, it was our choice, so, you know, here's what we got. So let's work.
Frank, we wouldn't have it any other way.
I don't think it could be any other way. I look back at a lifetime of this. I don't know what it could have been. Well, Martin, I want to thank you very much. I know everyone's going to enjoy listening to your interview, and it will be archived over at the Profiles in Holography website. And I guess I should probably try and keep these interviews a little bit more art-based, considering it's you know, art in holography type of format for this Profiles in Holography. But it's also good to get to know the artist a little bit as well, which I think we've accomplished here today, learning a little about you.
Thank you very much.
I hope we get a chance to meet someday.
I'm sure we will.
And I look forward to the day when all of you come over here to the States and I can meet you here, because I don't fly, and that's another one of my drawbacks to actually accomplishing anything in this field, is not getting on a plane.
That's a shame.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, especially, you know, when you have to drive everywhere and it's like 18 hours to get somewhere.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.
And a good weekend, and thank you for coming on the show.
Live long and prosper.
Yes, sir. Goodbye.
Cheers now.